We see arrows being fired over the trees as we see several of Vale's men getting killed. As we see Vale tries to run away with some of her people, as she sees everyone running away. Dawson pulls her away and says, "Vale, we gotta get the hell out of here." Vale then sees an arrow goes through Dawson's face as his face is lit on fire, as he burns and dies right in front of her. As we see Rob gets Jade and runs, as they take cover, we see Mara, Ryder, and Holly running in the other direction. As we see one of the trees catches on fire. As Vale sees blood everywhere, as we see several of her people are dead and more on fire, as she has no other choice but to run away. Back at Blackberry Ranch, Urban walks up to his men and says, "You get them?" One of his guys says, "We got a lot of them, boss, although I think we missed a few." Urban says, "All right, you go. Find what remains, and you do not come back until you kill every last fucking one of them. That's an order." The guy says, "Urban, sir, maybe we should get Ragnar down here to help us." Urban gets up in his face and says, "Fuck Ragnar. We take care of our own, no matter the cost." We see Rob and Jade running through the woods, out of breath, as she says, "We gotta turn back." Rob says, "We don't know if any of them are alive." He sees shadows from far and signals her to get behind the tree, as the two skull hunters just pass them by. But then, Rob and Jade look at each other, and they both sneak up behind one of them and stab one of them each from behind, as Jade says, "Good thinking, Dad. Let's keep moving." Rob just looks at his daughter with a horrified look on his face as he realizes she's not a kid anymore. But then, we see a group of people come out of the woods on horseback and point weapons towards them, as Rob and Jade look horrified and put their hands up in fear. We see Valhazer walking through the woods, as we see she looks tired and terrified, as we see a big tower in front of her, as we hear something coming from the woods, and as she pulls out her swords. Then from behind her, 3 skull hunters come out from behind her and knock her down to the ground, as she says, "Well, there you are." "Shit, I thought you gave up by now." The man says, "By Urban's command, you all die tonight. Though you'll still be deemed useful to us." The other guy says, "Yeah, I bet we could get a few good meals out of her." The other man says, "I bet we could." A sword goes through his neck, as we then see it was her, as she kicks the other 2 guys back and gets up and stands in a fighting position and says, "Come on, you low-life dick suckers. Let's do this." The 2 guys actually look nervous now. As they run towards her, she takes a few swipes at one of them, as he manages to slice her up in the face a bit, as she then drives her sword through him, and as his guts spill out, she then goes up to the last guy, as he pulls out a sword too, as they fight each other all the way up this tower, up the stairs, as she is saying, "You eat, kill, and don't think twice. Only the worst human beings cower that bad." The guy fights back and is saying, "We had no other choice. It's either this or we would have starved to death. You know, not everyone is as lucky as you with the perfect home and the perfect resources. Some people actually have to survive to live." They make it to the top of the tower as they fight back and forth, as she does a backflip and goes behind him and stabs him in the gut, as the blood comes out of his mouth as he falls, and as she stands over him and says, "Now how's that for surviving?" She throws him over the edge and says, "Well, I guess you don't have to survive anymore." Huh. We then see more people on horseback showing up to the tower, as Vale sees them and looks relieved and says, "Damn, Mrs. West. Fuck. Just in time." We see Mara, Holly, and Ryder walking through the woods. As we see Mara's leg is bleeding, as Ryder says, "Hey, we need to stop." Mara says, No, I can keep moving, I'm fine." Ryder says, "No, we're stopping." They sit by a log as Mara lifts her leg up, as we see it's bleeding very badly, and Ryder says, "Well, you were definitely hit. Although, we'll have to get that checked up." Mara says, No, we need to keep moving. They're coming." We then see a big group of people on horseback, as we see Vel, Rob, and Jade come out of the group, as Mara and the others put their weapons down. Mara says, "Oh my god, are you guys okay?" Vel says, "I am." Thanks to her. "Hey, by the way, thanks for saving us back there." We see the leader walks up to them, as we see a woman with a half sword and half axe weapon covered in blood, as she says, "Well, a mother's instinct is always right. I knew something was wrong when you guys didn't come back." Ryder looks at this woman and says, "Mom?" She laughs and says, "Oh, now you're happy to see me, huh?" Ryder says, "Thanks for coming to get us." Vel says, "So Alara, you happen to see any more of those masked freaks on your travels?" Alara says, "Well, I saw what remained of our horses back there." "What the hell happened?" Mara says, "Well, after that night, me and Ryder went to go make our delivery. Our convoy got attacked by these freaks. Everyone died. It was so quick. But I made sure Ryder was safe." Ryder says, "Keeping you safe, you mean?" Mara says, "Anyway, we were trying to get answers, but we found Rob and his daughter instead. He had gotten separated from her, then we helped Rob get her back. Rob and Jade have been a huge help." Vel says, "I can vouch for that. Rob is cool as fuck." Alara says, "Well, look, as long as we're out here, these freaks are going to continue to be a problem for us. I hear you all know where they're set up." Vel says, "I sure do." Alara grabs an RPG and says, "Well, as one once said before, this is survival of the fittest, and only the strong survive."